This next guest, he's the son of two former evangelical missionaries and a former Bible camp counselor himself. But our next guest represents what could be the changing face of young evangelicals in America.
That's right. Here to tell us where he thinks the Christian right is actually going wrong is Fox La Tondresse. He's the founder of recoveringevangelical.com. Good morning to you, Chris.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, you bet. Well, you traditionally vote Republican. You voted for both Bushes. This year you flipped and you voted with the Democrats. You voted for Barack Obama, which might seem weird to some. Why the switch?
It's a true story. Well, you know, there's over 2,000 verses in the Bible that deal with God's care and concern for the poor. There are less than 24 on homosexuality and even fewer that address abortion. Now, you certainly wouldn't get that impression from looking at the political agenda of the far right. Now for my generation, if we have to choose between those 2,000 verses that deal with poverty or those 24, it's a no-brainer. And there's a whole generation of evangelicals who is applying their faith in broader and deeper ways to a broader and deeper agenda than ever before. It includes things like poverty, HIV/AIDS, genocide, human trafficking, the war in Iraq, global climate change, and we're just trying to take our faith seriously, but applying it to perhaps a broader set of issues than ever before.
Yeah, and in fact, you say that as long as traditional Republicans continue to focus on the issues of abortion and gay marriage, that they will lose your younger generation of evangelicals. Are those issues not important to you?
Well, and in fact, I'd say that they are losing our generation. I mean, let's be clear. There are 3,000 abortions in America every single day. And that is a number that's unfit for any caring society. But there were 30,000 kids that died yesterday, will die today, and will die tomorrow of hunger, lack of clean drinking water, and preventable diseases. And my generation continues to be pro-life, but for us that definition has to be broader than ever before. It has to include those 30,000 kids in order to be taken seriously. And
when you say 30,000 kids, you mean around the world, not just in this country. So your issues, you see pro-life as a global issue.
Absolutely. It's global in its proportions. And indeed, my generation of evangelicals, much like my millennial peers, are, you know, those that study our generation call us the most interconnected global generation in human history. For us, we don't just relate to issues. We've actually made friends with people on the ground at garbage dumps in Mexico and on mission trips to Africa. And it disciplines our theology. It forces us to think about how God cares for those who Jesus calls the least of these.
Chris, real quick, how does the Republican Party get the young evangelical movement back?
Well, I think that they're going to have to broaden what's classically called moral values to include more issues than simply gay marriage and abortion. That is an old line, and there's a new generation that's chomping at the bit and ready to go to apply our faith to the big issues of our time. But they're simply bigger than those two issues.
Okay, and if people want to read more about it, they can go to your website, recoveringevangelical.org. Fox La Tondresse, thanks for joining us with your perspective.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
All right.